Hi, welcome back to the A&S Way. Today's video is going to be on choosing where to live in the USA.
That's a tough one.
It is a tough one, and it's why we're doing a dedicated video on it. We have had quite a few people messaging us via YouTube and Instagram. I think because we're selling Vegas, we're having a lot of questions around whether you guys should consider Vegas now over the place that you were considering. We really wanted to do a dedicated video giving advice on how to pick the place, because where you want to live in the USA might be different from us. And for us it was between California and here, and to be honest, we were very much on the side of wanting to move to California. And I would say on the whole, most of the people that have been messaging us, it seems to be that most people from the UK have been considering California mostly.
Or Florida.
Or Florida.
Because all Brits love Florida.
And really with this video, we want to give quite as much as we can, a balanced view on kind of how you pick which place to go in the USA. And also at the end of it, we'll give you our view on how we feel about Vegas and whether we are choosing to stay.
Before we get into it, as always, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, and to our current subscribers, thank you very much. We mentioned in the last video that we finally cracked 1,000 subscribers just 7 days ago, I think, and we made our first $1 in revenue, which we're very proud of, so thank you.
First thing that we wanted to point out about the USA, and it's perhaps, I know certainly some of my friends and family didn't appreciate this, and that's the size of the USA. It is made up of 50 states.
Although we did, interestingly, and this is a little outside, Selena said to me, the US, I'm going to put this in the video,
yeah.
It's 52 states. I said, no there isn't, there's 50. She's like, no, there's 52. Let's check. Like, maybe I could be wrong. I'm not a US aficionado, although I like it, I don't know much about the US. So we had a look, and the reason why you thought there's 52 is some people do consider there to be 52 states, which include
Puerto Rico and another place.
Yeah.
That was included in there.
So for the people from the US or know about the US history, let us know why there's a discrepancy. And we already know there are only 50 stars on the flag, so officially there's 50, but let us know why there might be 52 states.
Yeah, we would quite like to know that. And to put the US into perspective, it is pretty much the size of Europe.
Including UK?
I think it is including UK. You can actually Google where they kind of superimpose Europe over the US to give you an idea. But with that, it really does give you the idea of the expanse. And because of that, just how varied the different states can be, from the scenery to mountains, snow, beaches, driving.
Even within the state itself, we have a snow-capped mountain, which I actually spotted for the first time again, driving back from slightly more south of Las Vegas to super desert, which is where we are. And then there are actually some places with a little bit of greenery, which is surprising here. So even within each state, because they are so massive, they vary wildly.
And because of that, it really does mean that you can pick, in our opinion, the right place for you. If you love the beach, if you love the desert, if you love greenery, rain maybe, you love the rain opposite to us, or maybe you love that city life. You really do love that urban city life, the hustle and bustle. You have places like Chicago, New York, San Francisco. There really is a city or town that suits you. Or maybe you just want acres of land all to yourself.
That seems to be quite popular here. One
thing we will mention, and it's about the age of the USA, and it's come up a lot in conversations when we've met locals, because we'll talk about the UK and like how old some of our buildings are. And if you are somebody from Europe that loves these old quirky buildings that we have, you perhaps need to be mindful that you're probably not going to find that here in the USA, because they are just not as old as
they're
the other
juveniles.
countries. Yeah.
They are juveniles in the scheme of the world.
Babies.
Yeah, they are juvenile babies. Not the people. Some of them, yes. No, in terms of the age versus the rest of the world, in particular Europe, which is...
Okay, so what things should you consider when moving to the USA? And the first thing I'm going to start with is scenery. What scenery do you like? And the reason I say that is I think it makes up a huge part of why you like living there. When when you look out of your window, when you go out, when you meet your friends, I think the environment is a huge
Do you want to see high-rise buildings, skyscrapers like New York, London, Sydney, I think? Do you want to see that, or would you prefer to see the ocean, or would you prefer to be by a forest area? That's probably a good starting point, because there is a saying, I can't remember it, but the view is kind of what makes your life, and that feeling you get when you wake up and maybe a little bit stressed, and you look at them and you go, it's not so bad. We get to overlook the strip and the perfectly manicured yards and gardens, and sometimes you wake up and you're not feeling great, you look at it and you're like, actually it's really nice here, and puts you into a much better mood.
And it really does, you really can have everything, you know, if you want to live by a river, a lake, so really do consider what type of scenery you want to see and find the state that has that.
Some states actually have all of that. We recently went to Austin, and we were moments away from a river, a lido. It was wooded enough that there were plenty of trees, and then I don't think we were 6 minutes from downtown Austin, which has skyscrapers and all of the city stuff that you would expect. For me, really, a really amazing place for me. It felt quite homely, or at least like somewhere I would choose to live. Now, the next point Celine will get onto is to do with the weather, which is where it doesn't quite match up for us.
So the next thing we mentioned the scenery, but usually the scenery is a factor of the climate, which is the weather. So really do think about what weather you prefer. Are you somebody that likes the hot and humid, as an example, which would be those southern states as an example?
Georgia, Florida, Texas.
Yeah.
Tennessee, is Tennessee a state?
Yeah, I think
Tennessee, yeah, those ones. So you might get what you want there, but if you're not ready for that sticky, humid weather, and as we found out within 16 seconds of getting off the plane, 192 mosquito bites that comes with it, because we haven't been used to it. One of the benefits here is we see one fly a week. That's about it.
And you might live with us for the next week.
Yeah. We don't get attacked by bugs. We haven't had a bug issue since being here in 8 months. We spent 4 days and got eaten alive in Austin.
So conversely, so you have hot and humid places, but you also have hot and dry, like us here in Nevada. It's a very dry state. Arizona. So if you like the heat but you don't like the humidity, you can be in a state like us. Snow, rain. Go to Seattle. I hear it rains a lot in Seattle.
Yeah, and Boston, I think.
In Boston. But also, if you just prefer all the seasons, they do have places like Chicago's like that, New York. I think Boston's actually one of the places where you get all the seasons. But if you just like somewhere that's more like sunny most of the time, more of a temperate weather, then California is probably the state for you. Next thing to consider, so you know the scenery, so you've picked your place, you want your beach, and you know you like your temperate weather as an example. The next thing is to consider cost of living.
See, I might work a slightly different way. I would probably look at my bank account and go, okay, here's what my bank says, which places match that? But you could do it this way. You could find the ideal spot. You might go, La Jolla, California. Beautiful. I overlook the ocean, sunny all year round, 23 degrees to 30 degrees centigrade. Perfect, that's where I'm moving. And then you look at the house and go, 9 million? Selena said do it in this order, and now it's not worked.
But in actual fact, for us, we was considering California because it was the right scenery, because it was the right weather, and because the cost of living was so high, we decided against it. So I still favour my way of doing it, but you could start with cost of living. But I think if you start to narrow down the states that you like the look and feel of, then you can do the cost of living. And the reason we say that is because if you've watched our other video, we have a video on 10 random facts. We mention about the difference in the tax systems across and the politics and culture. How much you're paying in tax can vary from state to state.
So it's definitely something you really need to consider, because you might see someone and think, the home prices aren't massively different. For example, where we live in our little area of West Summerlin, they're not massively different to where we were looking in California, but the tax system is. And the overall expense of living in California is higher. So home price is similar, but the cost of living a lot higher
and
in
less money
California.
And out of your salary every month as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
So you really do need to consider all of those things when you're making those decisions, which really leads to the next point, which is what sort of lifestyle do you want? And that's definitely something we was considering when we was choosing between, or trying to make that decision between California and Vegas. So as an example, if for you love being by the beach, you don't mind a much smaller home, but being able to go out surfing is a key part of what you enjoy, then perhaps you will take the hit on the cost of living and the tax system.
You balance it, because for you, the money is well spent there. And the same applies for us. We were always balancing different things: the size of our home, what car we could afford, where I could go biking, which is actually a really good point. I was so close to packing up here and moving somewhere else because I couldn't find anywhere to ride my bike, and it was such an important part of what I do. And especially not having, we've got a couple of friends, but not really having friends that did what I did. It was important for me mentally to be able to ride my bike, and we just couldn't find anywhere. So I'm like, oh, maybe we need to look at California, because the money would have been worth it to spend that just so I could go out riding. So it's a good point. You really do need to consider what works for you. You might look at this and on face value you go, everyone lives in these massive homes in these really nice communities, but if that doesn't mean anything to you, why would you go there? It looks great on face value, but then you come and live alone with no friends and family in a huge house. Probably not worth it.
Exactly. And I think for us, the reason we chose to come to Vegas in the end was more of the financial reason. We were happy with the weather that you get here. The cost of living was far more appealing. We've ended up with a much larger home here than we would have had in California, but then we wasn't absolutely clear on whether the activities we would have liked to have done would have been better here than California.
And I would say, even with that, if you do make a choice and you come and live somewhere, give it some time, because for me, there was a good 6 months where there was no riding as far as I was concerned, and I just stumbled across a random video, and found a place that is as good as home in a different way. And I've actually met people there. Now, if I would have made a rash decision before that, we would have left and not known it was here. So I think you really have to give it some time and bed into the environment and learn what it has to offer you.
The other thing that I would say about considering your cost of living, but also the lifestyle you get, is because we are here, we have more expendable money because we chose to live in Vegas. That means we have more money to spend on services, to do things, to go away on holiday, to have a nicer home, to travel. To
go back home more often.
So on balance, we are getting a lot more for that money, rather than kind of spending out more and then being limited in the things.
Yeah, really good point. You could spend out a lot more money and be stuck where you are. You kind of built your own prison. Whereas we have a lot of freedom to do pretty much within reason whatever we choose to do, because our cost of living is considerably lower than it would have been in California. And we might have felt like we had a great life, but if you can't get away, which even if you live in the most amazing area, people need a break from that, from your routine. If you can't do that, it kind of would have worn, I think, on us over time.
So you've got your scenery, your weather, you've considered cost of living and the type of lifestyle that you want to live. The next thing that you really need to consider, and I think, I don't know about you, but I've definitely learnt it more as we spent more time here, is the politics and culture of this place that you live. And I have put them together because in the USA, I would say politics and culture are almost one of the same.
Yeah, it's coming from the UK, in our experience, and my work took me up and down the country, I have never experienced what you experience here. It's your politics are your identity in a lot of the US, and it's something that, so the two things that will get mentioned in nearly every race and politics, your political view, they talk about it and it sort of identity. So you're like, oh, you're not really, what do you think about the blue? So they're gauging where you are, and you're like, oh, I'm quite fiscally conservative. And you're like, oh, okay, good, now I can talk to you. Whereas if you don't say that, they're a little bit put off. Now you don't get that. Obviously we do have Labour and Conservatives, but really most people are just like, that's just this little side thing that we sort of have to do every 4 years. That's what it feels like. Whereas it seems quite important here, and we've definitely had that experience here and in Austin where we've been, that your political stance identifies you as a person.
It's very, very important, and you have to consider that with the community that you're trying to integrate with, because it will become a key part of where you're living.
The little pickets they have, I mean, they will have huge flags up telling you what they represent, and generally around their political stance.
See a truck going down the like the highway with
the back of their trucks.
I mean, with quite expressive views of who
expressive and explicit.
Yeah, on who should die.
Yeah, there's a lot of that, who should die, because of their political views.
So just something to be aware of. And we've mentioned about the age of the USA, and it's part of how, if you come from Europe, you will find it's not as progressive as we are. And what Ant mentioned about the buckets, you do find here that people do want to generally put you in a bucket. And it's probably because that's all they know. They're kind of used to communities founded on politics, religion.
It makes it really
race.
easy to make assumptions. And two people I've met, and this wasn't done in a bad way at all, it's interesting, they said, oh, you must throw people off massively. They look at you, black person, and then you're English, and like, oh, where do I place this guy? Because it doesn't compute to their set of boxes that are predefined, which is quite nice for me, because it gets me talking to lots of people, and it opens people up both ways, me to them and them to me, and they're not sort of on the back foot from the offset. So it's a bit different for me, and I will have a different experience for somebody that might look like me but is from here. But that's how much it matters here.
The next thing that we would mention, and it's more, this is just other things to think about, and things that we've picked up over the last 8 months. California. California seems to be a very popular place that people want to move to if you're not from the USA. And I think it's what Ant said at the beginning. It's on TV, it's popularized, it's all of the things.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, oh yeah, it is.
It is
stunning.
Amazing. And just before you make your point, we are, let me make sure I get my words right. I was going to say pro-California. We're not pro-California because I don't know it in that way. We were pro-living in California ourselves. We really want to go. We'd gone and done the US one?
Yeah.
We've done the trips, we've been to all of the towns that people talk about and fell in love with the place. So this isn't us saying our feelings on Californians or California. This is more about us hearing and interpreting what people's sentiment and words are about Californians.
Yeah, and I'm going to say this because quite a few of you that have been watching our videos have asked us this specific question. So I'm going to tell you what I've heard, what we've been hearing over the last few months.
It's quite shocking, really. I wasn't aware.
No. So I'll start with, people are not saying much positive about California, full stop. Californians are leaving California.
In droves.
Yes, exactly. They're moving here, they're moving to Texas, because there are lots of issues happening. Apparently there's an increase in crime, the homelessness, the tax system,
politics.
So there is something going on with California at the moment that is not good. On top of that, we have had multiple conversations about the, I would say, deep dislike for Californians moving to their state. Like you just have to go on Instagram and see, look up a Las Vegas Instagram account, and you will see the comments. Californians, go home, we don't want you here,
don't bring it here, you're not welcome. And then people openly tell us, and like, that's here, we arrived in Austin and the taxi drivers,
I would say it's worse in Austin.
And phrases like, we'll run them out of town. And you're like, wow, okay, there's really a problem. And they're saying it to us because they're happy we're there, which is really nice for us, because we're flying under the radar. They're like, oh, English people, that's okay. Fine. You're no threat to us. You lot come in, which is it's nice to hear, but it's really interesting to hear their views on Californians. And we're obviously not part of the political thing.
We can't speak to it. We don't know what's gone on, how people perceive how California as a state has progressed over time. I would say I really don't have an opinion on it, other than the fact that we really do want to tell you guys that you need to be wary of the fact that if you're looking to move to California, that their own Californians are leaving
running,
and no one else wants them.
They're selling their houses to you.
So just something to consider if you're moving to California. So those are the things that we think you should consider. But what about us? After 8 months of living here, we will be truthful. Every time we go to California, and even when we went to Austin recently, do we love it there? Yes. There is something that we love about, in California, it's the beach, the green. There was a community feel in La Jolla that you felt that, in fact, it was easier to make friends and talk to people there with how that community.
We spoke to more people in a shorter space of time there than we do here. People are friendly, but they're living their own lives. Whereas there, instantly, we were chatting to people the moment we got off the plane, in fact. So it does feel different. We do like that, and there is a lot of value to that, I would say. Austin, again, I personally really like
the
Austin.
homes were amazing, by the way. In one of our videos, we'll try and show one of the clips of the homes.
They're unbelievable. The homes, the amount of land that they have, the people seemed really friendly in the short period of time there. It's kind of a melting pot as well of lots of different people that come from different states in there. It's a bit more of a business hub. There's lots of street music and lots of really good restaurants. So there's a lot to love about Austin as well.
Yeah, and interestingly, when we got to Austin, I really did like it. And then it was one of the states, Texas was a state that we were considering because of the lower taxes compared to California. So then when we got to Austin, I thought, oh, maybe this is a place for us to consider, because we like the weather, the feel of the city. It's got a really nice blend of suburban, urban, the river, the lakes. So then I really did, and the tax system. So I thought, okay, and it's cheaper to live than here. So that's a key thing.
If you for $1 million here, you'll get about 2/3 of the home that you get in Texas, but about 1/10 of the land. So for $1 million, some of the houses we were seeing were really unbelievable. They knew better what I wanted than I knew. I'm looking at this house again. That's the house. Oh no, that's the house. No, this one I want this more. Every house was amazing. In the area that we were staying, I don't know what it's like everywhere, and they were reasonably, bearing in mind we're talking about a certain level, they were reasonably priced when you consider what you get here for that type of money.
So you would consider then, if it's cheaper to live there, why would we not start thinking about the move there? But for me, the humidity I did like, but to a point it was way too sticky, and I actually struggled, and I walked too long.
Oh yeah, you really did.
I was actually struggling in that heat.
Whereas we've walked here and you've not been that bad.
Yeah, I'm fine. So the humidity does not work for me, but also it came down to the bugs. I can't. I cannot do it.
It's with bugs, but it's also humidity. It's wet, lots of greenery, so you're going to get that. There's places for bugs to live, whereas there isn't here. So. It doesn't mean to say we wouldn't consider it in the future, and doesn't mean to say we wouldn't go there for a short period of time. And if we had a ton of money, maybe we'd buy a house there as well and just go there in the winter time.
Yeah, could be. So for now, we are definitely we're not planning on moving from Las Vegas, at least for the next 2 years.
Yeah, a couple of years.
I would say we are very happy that we've made the right choice for us in terms of a place that offers the weather, lifestyle, a very good balance for us financially. And in fact, that's the primary reason. We really want to make really sound financial decisions in these years for us, so that we can profit more long term in the future. So we cannot tell you where you should live. Where you should live is very much dependent on your own financial situation, what you like, dislike. Maybe you don't mind bugs and spiders and things. So it really does come down to what you like, your family, your preference. But I hope this video helps you in thinking about all the different aspects that you should consider when choosing the state, and an appreciation also of what the USA has to offer. Good.
I think you covered it.
Good. I'm glad I covered it. Well, if you haven't already, hit that like button, comment below, let us know what you think. Is there any other questions you have about moving to the USA that we haven't covered? Let us know, we'll do a video on that. Thanks for watching.